Together we'll see who dies and survives, circled around a sacred fire, strumming along with our favorite lyre. Adventure called the quest awaits, your destiny's in the hands of the fates. But never fear, we're all friends here, we'll have your back when danger's near. Come with us through the pages as we unravel a tale for the ages into the Percy-Verse.
Hello and welcome to the Percy-Verse podcast. I'm Alisa.
And I'm Anna. Grab some wax and plug your ears because today we're reading Chapter 13, Annabeth Tries to Swim Home. In this chapter, Percy hits his stride sailing a ship. We meet Talia in an ominous dream, and Annabeth chooses to hear the sirens and finds out her fatal flaw.
Love starting on a podcast with grab some wax and plug your ears. Straight off the gate, telling everyone.
Don't listen to this one. No, I mean, oof. Like, the sirens, that's kind of the main part of the chapter. And
no, it is. Yes.
One question I'm going to have for us, all the listeners, and you and me, is would you grab some wax and plug your ears? Like, would you listen to the sirens or not? So we'll get there, but be thinking about it and let us know in the comments if you would hear the sirens, if you choose to hear them or not.
Well, sadly, I think they won't even know that they're being asked.
Because we've already told them to plug their ears.
So we can just have a lot of fun this episode because,
we can. No one's listening
everyone's
anyway.
earwaxing the whole time. Yeah.
And now unplug.
Safe. It's okay.
Safe.
Well, we start this chapter off with, I think, like, a really lovely moment for Percy, the ADHD kid who, like, really struggled academically in school. It starts out with saying, I'd finally found something I was really good at. And I just, like, took a moment to be like, that is really wonderful. And that I think, like, it's important for all of us to, like, have the experience of finding something that we feel good, that makes us feel good, and not that, like, one has to be, like, good at things. You can have fun doing things and, like, doesn't have to,
like, I imagine that you're, like, thriving while you do it, like that kind of like you're just in your element.
And feeling really good about yourself while doing said thing is just a lovely.
And he's literally in his element. In the water.
Literally.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. He is on the Queen Anne's Revenge, just steering it excellently, and just the ship is responding to everything, and he knows what to do when and where, and he knows how fast they're going. Like, he's just like, I've got it. I've got everything under control. But because of that, and because the stress and the adrenaline and everything has been coming down, it's like, now's the time for feelings to come through. Which is always what happens. As soon as you're stressed, your adrenaline, you make it out of the danger, you have enough time back, your body and your nervous system have come back down. That's when the, like, this is
underneath everything.
Yes, exactly, comes up. And what comes up for him?
Really, if you think about it, he has gone from a gigantic explosion to a mysterious island of sorcery where he's turned into a guinea pig to escaping pirates on their very own pirate ship. So I feel like this really is one of his first moments to pause. There's a bit of conversation on the raft when they're headed to where they end up at Cece's island. But I do think that being on a raft is also just, like, not as safe feeling as a giant ship that's, like, steering and sails are hoisting, like, to your every whim. And it's, like, I almost imagine it's like he's conducting an orchestra,
Totally,
like, he's
very
so,
August Rush, but with a boat.
August Rush on water, yes. And so I feel like this really is his first time where he's reaching a greater sense of physical and psychological safety in, since, oh my gosh, then if I just keep going back in my mind, I'm like, it's been a minute actually on this story.
Yeah. And what comes up for him is how much he is missing Tyson and how worried he is about Grover, which makes a lot of sense. And then we kind of learn that Percy is like has been changed for good by having been turned into a little guinea pig, and he's jumpy and he feels like maybe the instinct to be a scared little animal was a part of him, but then that makes him wonder if it had maybe always been there, and that really worries him, which I found interesting. Like, that what worried him was that, like, he got it, that, like, that scared little animal is like, oh no, it's always been in there. I've always had that in me to be a scared little animal. And I think it kind of makes sense for like a character where he's a demigod, he's like supposed to be a hero, to be brave, to like charge into battle, to defend, to protect, to do all these things. And I think it kind of makes sense that he would have some anxiety and worry initially, being like, wait, hold on a minute. I now have a part of me that maybe is fearful and tentative and not wanting to like rush into battle and like put my own life on the line.
Yeah, a part that's like jumpy and scared. I know we've talked about parts and like parts work on the podcast before, and this made me think of that, but it also made me think of that like fight, flight, freeze, appease response and how or fawn response, and how we all do have that jumpy, scared animal inside of us. Like, that's true. Whether or not we feel it as such, right? And I think so far he's had the opportunity to take action, like to do the fight and flight. And so I imagine that the experience of being turned into a guinea pig and enclosed in a cage, it really cut off that reaction response. And when that happens, like when we have the freeze or the fawn response, a lot of the time it like traps inside of us the fight or flight response we wanted to have. So it could be one of the first times that Percy wasn't able to take an action. And I think that's why he's thinking here, like, if it wasn't for Annabeth saving me, having the multivitamins, thinking quickly, I'd be stuck. And that's like the bigger like thing about him as a hero. But I also think there's this like primal instinct of like our lizard brain that wants to have these responses and reacts really strongly when they're like stuck and they can't happen in the way that we want them to. So it just felt like it was very universal too, this feeling he's having. Totally. And like something that we might all experience at different times.
Yeah, because I feel like him being turned into a guinea pig was like, I think maybe the first time we've experienced him feel truly helpless, like in a moment, and not have some final trick up his sleeve or some just like, I'm going to rush and go without thinking, like be able to try something as a guinea pig. He really couldn't. He was just stuck and required that outside help in order to get him out of that situation. He's correct. Like without Annabeth, he's still guinea pig. With Blackbeard as a guinea pig.
With pirates.
In that cage.
Exactly. Yes.
I
do appreciate that he still has a desire to eat lettuce, because I think that's kind of funny.
Yes. Yeah. No, I agree. And so they sail through the night, which I just want to make note of because we got the one more day warning from our last stream with Grover. So we have reached the day. 'Tis the day, and we didn't get a specification on like, is this a morning wedding, it is an afternoon wedding, like we don't know the time of day for what timeline, but the clock is very much ticking and we are nearing the end of it by this point. And we learned that like Annabeth gets seasick. I don't think we knew that.
I have a question about this too.
Yes.
So I don't remember the trajectory or the arc of Annabeth's seasickness, but I don't remember if it pops up anywhere else in this series. But I was thinking ahead to Heroes of Olympus, because she is in fact on the ship with everyone else, and Hazel definitely gets seasick in any book that she's in. If she's on a boat, she's getting seasick. And that, like, features prominently in whenever she's mentioned in Heroes of Olympus. I think even when they're flying, but I could be wrong, but definitely when they're on the ocean.
Yeah.
So, but I don't remember Annabeth having a bunch of seasickness in Heroes of Olympus. And so then I was wondering, like, am I forgetting that? Or is that something that she kind of, like, adjusts to in this series? Do you remember?
Yeah, I don't remember Annabeth being described as having seasickness when they're on the ship flying. Maybe Annabeth has, like, you can have it to varying degrees. Maybe Annabeth is strictly like a water-based seasickness and like...
But they're on the water too. And like they go down onto the water because they can't be flying. That's why I'm saying like Hazel also gets seasick because they go on water. So I just couldn't remember. Let us know in the comments if you know. But I was like, wait, I didn't remember that Annabeth got seasick here. And I was like, when does she not get seasick? Or am I forgetting that both she and Hazel are like huddled downstairs?
And you know what? And sometimes as writers we forget that we made characters seasick. And 8 years later, they're on another boat, and we forgot that all those years ago we made him seasick.
We can read that as we go along and see. Maybe it's there. I forgot.
I don't remember if I brought this up on the podcast before, but things like this always make me wonder if authors have... So, like, shows like Dimension 20 and Critical Role have, like, lore trackers, like people whose job it is to like keep track of all of the complexity of the lore, of the world building, everything that involves like with each like new episode of the campaign. And it made me curious, like, do authors who write really expansive universes, like how do they keep track of their lore? Do they do it themselves? Do they have an assistant whose job it is
role, you know, in theory?
Yeah, I don't know. But like with something hard. Like, you know, with Rick Riordan where you're like expanding over time, and I'm sure when he's writing these books he didn't know Heroes of Olympus and Trials of Apollo and everything else would branch off from this. And so like, like is there some assistant out there whose job is to be like, well, on page 29 of this book you established
Annabeth is seasick. That's a great question. I don't know the answer to that.
My curiosity. Yeah. If anyone knows, hey. So Annabeth tried to help, can't. She's seasick for the present moment. And so Percy's kind of at the helm, and we get this description of like he sees some monsters off in the distance, like a plume of water as tall as a skyscraper, green spines, and he's kind of like, I don't really want to know what's going on here. He does see some Nereids, but they like disappear, and he doesn't know if like he like waved. He doesn't know if they saw him.
I have a question. Why don't you think Percy and Annabeth are attacked by monsters during this adventure? Because we're in the Sea of Monsters. You would think that monsters would be drawn to them as demigods. I had a theory pop into my head as I asked that question when I was reading, but I'm just curious if you have any thoughts.
No, please go ahead, share your theory.
Well, they're on a famously evil pirate ship. And the only thing I could think, because I just feel like they like normally should have to be fending off monsters left and right in a place called the Sea of Monsters. As two demigods on a ship.
Right.
I was wondering if it's possible that like the pirates are have been so villainous in the past that like they have effectively dealt with monsters, and so weirdly like all the monsters are actually afraid of this particular ship.
Yeah, I could totally see that. I also, it made me curious because like the Sea of Monsters is this, it's not quite like like pocket dimension as like Calypso's Island is, but it does feel like it exists in a somewhat similar way of like, you can only access it by like these like two specific entrances. That it also made me, I don't know, curious about like if maybe monsters, I know that monsters are like, they're established in this world as like their drive, their purpose. But like I wonder if you're like a monster in the Sea of Monsters where you're like, this, I'm just hanging out.
You're just chilling.
This is my home. Yeah. I'm just hanging out. Like as long as you don't bug me, I won't bug you. You know, if it's more of a kind of like, don't make me mad, I won't have to come after you. you just let me be, because like this is where I get to just like exist and not like
perhaps.
I don't know.
Perhaps it's less like, how dare you come on my home turf, and it's more like, I'm at home watching TV, so just don't take my cookies.
Right. So like just don't knock on my door, you know, or try to bust through my door. Just like let me chill.
Yeah, perhaps. So I'm curious if anyone else has other theories. Let us know in the comments why you think Percy and Annabeth aren't attacked.
I like the Blackbeard theory though, that like his ship is so like renowned that
I like it because I feel like it in my mind then creates a whole series of Blackbeard as a descendant of Ares, like fending off monsters, you know, in pirate fashion. So it evokes like a whole history there.
Totally. Yes. And then Annabeth comes up kind of luckily just in time to realize that they're getting close to one of the forges of Hephaestus, and Annabeth is basically like, let's take the long way round. Like, we don't want to pass too close to here. And Percy follows suit, and they steer very clear of it. And then it's something about, because, you know, it's about midnight, and there's something about nighttime. You get into the deep, hard conversations. It's like the late night talks in a car where, you know, where you're up till 4 a.m. It's like, this is the, like, we're going to get into our feelings. We're going to get into the hard stuff.
Totally.
Because Percy finally asks Annabeth about the reason why she hates Cyclops, the story about how Talia really died, what actually happened there. And Annabeth says that she's like, okay, I guess you deserve to know. And she tells him. And I'm going to like try to kind of briefly summarize all of it because it's a couple of paragraphs of dialogue. But basically, she's saying like, you remember how Grover told you like we took some wrong turns, like got a little lost. And she says that the worst turn was into a Cyclops lair in Brooklyn. And that like Tyson was able to do on the Princess Andromeda, this Cyclops was able to sound like anyone, and so the Cyclops lured them in one at a time. Talia thinking she's running to save Luke, Luke thinking he's hearing Annabeth scream for help, and then lastly Annabeth. And that somehow the Cyclops was able to speak in her dad's voice, which, how?
She says that she thinks he pulled it out of her mind. So I guess they're able to do that. Yeah.
How? This was the biggest thing for me where I was like, I need to know. Like I very rarely, like, I'm a big, like, I'll accept whatever world a book or movie or TV show is presenting me with. Like, it's funny to say that on a podcast where our whole deal is we're diving deep into it. Right. Most of the time, as, like, an audience member, I'm just along for the ride, here to have a good time.
Yeah.
This is one of the few things where I desperately need to know how. Because my brain was going down like, so we're saying that this Cyclops was able to like read her mind somehow and audibly hear the voice of her father and capture that to then be able to perfectly mimic it back to her. Yeah. Like I went down rabbit holes in my brain of like was this all part of like was Kronos planning this even way back then, you know, and was kind of like, I don't know, I like somehow was like, hey, this is what Annabeth's dad sounded like. I was like trying to make it make sense, because I just was like, a Cyclops can read minds and pull voice from there, like what? I was just having a really hard time like accepting that as like,
that's fair,
how it meant
we've gotten tidbits like Percy's wondered if Tyson could like read emotions like Grover, so we have gotten things here and there about Cyclopes maybe being able to have that level of intuition. We also have experienced, like, talked about specific individuals as having powers that everyone in the group does not have. And so and here I'm just trying to like world build inside of it to see what makes sense, right? But we just recently had a conversation on the podcast about like the special ones, like Leo, who is immune to fire, and like other people, you know, Piper's charm speak, Drew has charm speak too, but you know that it's less common, and not just any kid of Aphrodite or of Hephaestus can do those things. And so perhaps this is a Cyclops that is particularly like in tune and beyond reading emotions and being able to mimic the voices of specific people, is able to pull even more voices, like kind of reach into your mind more so.
Yeah. You know what? I'll take it. I accept that. I like that explanation.
You're back. You're back on board. We got you back.
I'm back. And so as Annabeth is looking at Luke and Grover and Talia tied up and hanging from the ceiling, and the Cyclops is speaking to her in her father's voice. Yeah. And Percy is like, it's really affecting Percy. It feels like a ghost story to him hearing it, because I think he can really empathize and like understand how terrifying that must have been for Annabeth, and how unsettling like it would be. And then she says that she stabbed the Cyclops in the foot, which Percy's just kind of like, huh?
Impressed.
Are you kidding? Like at 7. And Annabeth explains that it surprised him, gave her just enough time to run to Talia, cut the ropes on Talia, and Talia took it from there. And she says that they barely got out alive. She still has nightmares. PTSD, hello, PTSD. The way Camp Half-Blood needs therapists. Like
the way they do.
The way, oh man. And this is where I really noted Annabeth's framing of this, which is that she says in regards to the Cyclops, it was his fault we took so long getting to camp. All the monsters who'd been chasing us had time to catch up. That's really why Talia died. If it hadn't been for that Cyclops, she'd still be alive today. And it really made me think about how in The Lightning Thief we learn that Grover really blames himself. He says the getting mixed up, the getting turned around, the getting lost was what caused the delay. So like Grover's blaming himself, Annabeth is blaming the Cyclops, and I was just like, man, boy, like in grief and anger and all of that, do we try to like in our personal lives like put the blame
on someone to blame.
Yes like, because I'm like
one place to channel it.
Exactly, because I'm like, you could run back all of those sequence of events, and it could be the Cyclops before that, it could be Grover before that, I'm sure something else happened, like like you could run it back and replay the tape and find a point in time to be like, that was when, no that, and that it's just like, I think it was easier probably for her to cope by pinning it, blaming it on a monster, you know, than like
instead of
one of her friends or anything like that. And that just became the like way to do it, because she doesn't, you know, like she has no blame. She's just like, oh, the Cyclops tricked us, and I'm like, well, would Talia and Luke have known about a Cyclops' ability to like do that, or you know, like all of them got tied up, like not in a blaming them kind of way, but just the way that but
it's part of that like Annabeth is 7 thing, right? Like she's not seeing them that way. She's seeing them like as older than her and protecting her, but also as kids with her. And I think we've talked about that before, like even Talia and Annabeth have different perspectives on that time with Luke because they saw different parts of him too. So yes, I think, you know, one thing we talked about in The Lightning Thief with this story, because we get different pieces of it in different books, is if Grover getting turned around was something that happened, like we talked about what made Grover get turned around and whether that was being affected by other forces. I remember us talking about that. So, you know, we could even go deeper into wondering how all of this happened. And of course, she's being, you know, chased because she is the daughter of Zeus. And that's why they have so many monsters after them, ultimately, and the Furies after them, ultimately. And so really, as, you know, this is why Kronos can get so many people on his side, but all roads lead back to the gods in some ways, right? Like if Zeus hadn't broken the pact, or if Zeus twice, or if Zeus, because we don't know that yet, but come on. Or if Zeus, you know, had actually protected his daughter.
Yes.
Right? Like, come on.
Helped her in some way.
Just like, protect your daughter. So I think it's easier, like you said, to look at a specific situation in a more narrow way and find one person or one thing to blame and focus all of your anger and grief and fear and resentment and everything on that. And sometimes that's yourself, like with Grover. Sometimes it's an external person, like with Annabeth. But I think that it's relatable. There's a few relatable things in here, and one of the things is that, you know, you want to find something to blame, to channel toward. The other, I think, is that Percy, as an older than 7-year-old now, though still a child himself, is like, wow, you did all those things when you were 7, and like is seeing the strengths of the situation, and Annabeth just like can't even see that, like her perspective on this situation being wrapped up in like the desperation and fear of it still. Again, why we need some trauma therapy for these kids,
because like her whole perspective is stuck, her understanding and everything is stuck in her 7-year-old experience of it. Like a part of her is stuck there, like that was a traumatic thing that happened, and trauma is that stuckness. And so Percy's able to see like, oh my god, like you at 7 were the thing that allowed you and your friends to be safe and to escape. Like, how unbelievable is that? You were literally 7 and that was a full-grown Cyclops. Like, what are you talking about, Annabeth? That is unreal. And she is just like, Talia would still be alive if it weren't for the Cyclops. Talia would still be alive if it weren't for the Cyclops. Like that, she can't get out of that loop. And we kind of end this nighttime section with Percy also really taking a moment, like really thinking about Annabeth's story and how courageous it is of Annabeth to go on this quest knowing that their final destination is another layer of a Cyclops. And he wonders if he would have enough courage to do the same thing. And so I think this is like a really beautiful moment of really being able to see just their relationship and like how much like really like deep respect and I think admiration like they have for one another, and the closeness for this like vulnerability, you know, and like to share all of that. And like there's not judgment, it's just Percy being like, you're phenomenal, Annabeth, and then later essentially being like, wow, she's so brave. You know.
I think this is such a Percy and Annabeth chapter in a lot of ways, like as we go through and like them getting closer and sharing and being vulnerable, like that's gonna happen a few times in this chapter. And I think this is a really beautiful chapter between the two of them. I did think it was notable that the constellation that Percy's watching above them is Hercules, because we've talked about this constellation with Hermes previously, so I thought that was really interesting. That he's kind of like hanging over in this moment, you know, above them. And then the other thing I thought was super relatable was like Percy was so tired when Annabeth was like, go get some sleep. And then he lies down and his brain is just like reliving and reprocessing everything that just happened in the conversation and he can't go to sleep quickly. And I was just like, wow, have I been there? like from feeling like you're going to fall over tired to then just like running things through your brain and like not being able to go to sleep. So I just felt like that was the other relatable thing of this section.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Yeah.
So it's interesting when he does finally go to sleep, he specifically says that he doesn't dream about Grover. Because he's been dreaming a lot about Grover. And in The Lightning Thief, we get a lot more Kronos dreams or nightmares. But it's almost like I didn't get my regular Grover, regularly scheduled programming tonight in my dreams, you know? So I thought that was kind of funny. That's where he starts. But instead, we are in Luke's stateroom aboard the Princess Andromeda. And we are having, like, it's still nighttime there too, but we're having air swirling and voices whispering, the spirits of the dead. And this was interesting because we had these discussions about, like, are there spirits on the ship and stuff?
Yes.
So it's like leaning more in that direction, but it is a dream, and what they're whispering is beware traps, trickery. So, like, are they telling Percy this, and are they in the room?
Well, right, and then because it's a dream featuring Talia, who is like dead, kind of, but also not, kind of. I was like, are the spirits of the dead there? Because Talia's there, and she's dead in a spirit as well, and so this whole dream
or are they
is
on the
conjuring.
ship?
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
I know.
So it doesn't give us more answers, but it does deepen the mystery.
Yeah. But I also wondered if maybe like the sarcophagus, does it kind of like call spirits of the dead? Like,
possible, because it's, you know, it's connected in some way to Tartarus, and you know,
and it's calling him
the underworld.
Out of Tartarus.
It is.
So maybe
like there's stragglers. When a piece of Kronos comes up, like there's just sort of like 5 spirits attached to it. Yeah, they just accidentally get pulled up. So many questions. We literally, I feel like every episode we're like, we have questions about death and dying in this world. I know. Like, we have so many questions.
I would love, because we've been talking about like all of, you know, the many like experts we'd love to interview. Yes. I would, of course, simply die if we got to interview Rick Riordan.
Oh, and absolutely. Also, oh my god, we'd have to narrow down like which questions.
I know. like what are the things we want hard and fast like answers on? Okay. Versus, but I, you know,
we'll start preparing our list. Yeah, I love it.
Mr. Rick Riordan, if you want to come on the pod, we'd love to have you.
We'll be happy to have you, and we have questions, and we're excited to ask them. Absolutely. So yeah, as I said, they're whispering, beware traps, trickery. So it's already setting us up, as I said at the beginning, with this ominous tone, as we do with Kronos. And his golden sarcophagus is glowing faintly. It's the only light in the room. And then we get his cold laugh, which is something that we've heard before, especially in The Lightning Thief. But what's interesting is it seems to come from miles below the ship. Yeah. So it's still like, the source is still kind of Tartarus-y, right? Like, it's still coming from below. The call is not quite coming from inside the house yet. No. But something interesting is inside the house that we're going to get to. So he says specifically, you don't have the courage, young one. You can't stop me. And so I think it's really interesting when he just goes to sleep. Percy just goes to sleep and is wondering if he would have the courage to go to an island with a Cyclops, like Annabeth is doing, when that's like one of her main trauma memories. But like now, he's being told by Kronos, you don't have the courage to stop me. So to really get it, you know, we've talked about how Kronos sometimes doesn't like tailor his needling to his audience, but here I think it's very well timed. With everything Percy has been asking about himself. And Percy knows that he needs to open the coffins. He uncaps Riptide, and the ghosts swirl around and say, beware. But he can't move his feet. And again, like, there's so much relatability in this chapter. And this is another one, like, you're in a dream, you need to do a thing, and you can't move your feet. Like, been there. Also,
it reminded me of Kronos is like slowing down time in those moments, like when we'll get to like the fight on the Princess Andromeda, like later on, and Percy like literally can't move. Totally. So yeah, it was like it was like
both. A call ahead to that. Yeah. No, I think you're right. I think that's a piece of it, because he does mess with time as well as temperature. But then he hears beside him, "Well, Seaweed Brain," and he expects to see Annabeth, but instead he sees a girl who was not Annabeth. And I'm going to go ahead and read the description of her. Because I feel like we need the initial description. All right. She wore punk-style clothes with silver chains on her wrists. She had spiky black hair, dark eyeliner around her stormy blue eyes, and a spray of freckles across her nose. And she looks familiar to Percy, but he's not sure why, and he doesn't figure it out for a little while here. And she's asking Percy if he's going to stop Kronos or not, which I think putting Talia here in the, like, question of defeating Kronos is particularly interesting, given that either of them could be the one to defeat Kronos at this point. Yes. So then she rolls her eyes because Percy still cannot move and says, fine, leave it to me and Aegis. and she taps her wrist.
Whoa, is that how you say that?
I don't know. That's how I say it.
Oh, I've been saying Aegis.
I don't know if it's Aegis. We can look it up.
I don't know. I forgot to look it up. Okay, sorry, continue.
It's okay. So she taps her wrist, and I think this is also cool because we've been hearing so much about Tyson tinkering with something.
Yeah.
So it's quite fun that we get an example of a wrist shield situation, like, ahead of the gift.
Yes, yeah.
But we get this huge shield, and we will never, ever in these stories be rid of Medusa, because her face is protruding from the center of this bronze shield that looks like a death mask, as if the face had literally been pressed against it. And Percy kind of realizes that this shield would make anyone just, like, run for their mama in a fight. Yeah. Like, every monster is just running away. Every human is just running away. It's just terrifying, even when you're not quite looking at it. And so as she's advancing toward the sarcophagus, the shadowy ghosts are parting and scattering because the aura is so intense. And Percy tries to tell her to stop. He says no, but she doesn't listen, and she just goes and pulls the lid. And I kind of love this because it also is, like, very Talia to just do the thing, you know? Yes. So it is a good introduction to her character, even though, like, it's interesting to wonder how conscious this is of her, how much... You know, like, again, how does death and dying work? Like, how much is the spirit of Talia actually in this dream?
Right.
Or not?
Yes.
Like, something else is happening here. Especially because it does seem that Kronos has maybe pulled Percy into this dream. So how much of this is Kronos' manipulation? It's, like, unclear right now, right?
I know.
Yeah. So the coffin begins to glow as she's looking at the opened sarcophagus. And... she says, no, it can't be. And from the depths of the ocean, Kronos laughs so loudly the whole ship shakes. And that's when the nightmare's over and Percy sits upright. And we'll get into him and Annabeth. Yeah. But we know, I think, that she's seeing Luke in that sarcophagus.
Yeah, she's seeing Luke. She's definitely seeing Luke. But this is my biggest... question, which is like what you were getting at earlier, is just like, so these reactions feel very Talia, like how she's interacting with Percy. How did she know seaweed brain, you know? But like the way that she's interacting with him feels very, very Talia. The fact that she goes to the sarcophagus, opens it, but then her like scream and her voice trembling, realizing like all of that feels like an honest potentially reaction to seeing Luke. Yeah. So like, do you think this is really Talia or no? And then also, like, why? Right. Like, why now? Why in this moment? Like, either way, Kronos let this happen, whether this is Talia or not, whether he was a part of bringing Talia in or whatever it is.
Because he's just creating Talia, because that's another option. It could be not even her. Yeah.
Yes. And regardless if it is her or not, he's like wants Percy to see this. So I'm just like, what play is this? Like, why? And now, and like, why see her? It feels like also really fun foreshadowing to like, and she will rise, you know?
Yes. Totally.
But do you think this is actually Talia or not?
Yeah.
I'm curious.
So I'm thinking about last book when we talked a lot about Kronos' plan.
Yeah.
What is Kronos' plan? You know, we're kind of like tracing this through. As much as I want it to be Talia.
Yeah.
I'm inclined to say that this is Kronos because I think Kronos from the depths of Tartarus could have absolutely been following when Talia was alive, following along the story. I do think the seaweed brain is a hint that it's not Talia because like that has to be either plucked from Percy's mind by Kronos or Kronos like knows that Annabeth calls him that. And I think it wouldn't be very hard to like conjure her up.
Yeah.
And like I think that placing like in a way this is a stirring of competition that Kronos is already starting to do by saying you don't have the courage, right? That's what he says at the beginning of the dream. Then he plucks Talia into the dream makes Percy not be able to move.
Right.
And then says, hey, look, she can do it. Also, though, she's terrified.
Yeah.
Yeah, but both. Like, the person who has more courage to do the thing you can't, even she's terrified of what she sees in here. Be afraid. Be very afraid.
So you're saying, like, basically, like, this is Kronos' way of being, like, you puny little mortal, you don't stand a chance.
Which is what he says at the beginning. And then he illustrates that. And he sows seeds of competition for Percy for when Talia does come back, because he's planning for Talia to come back.
Right.
So he has them directly compete in this dream, and Talia wins, if we're thinking of, like, who can move and take an action.
But is still unable to defeat Kronos, fundamentally.
But is still unable to defeat Kronos, and is afraid of what she sees inside the sarcophagus.
Right.
So if it's not him, that would make me happier, but I think if it is him, it's a very effective manipulation, which he usually is good at.
Yeah. I think, unless I'm forgetting that we got confirmed, either way, if this is Talia or not, I think I am in agreement. I think especially the start of Seaweed Brain, I'm just like, Talia's a tree. Talia doesn't know that Percy's nickname is Seaweed Brain. You know, like, from that's what really makes it feel like this isn't actually the spirit and the soul of Talia, like, visiting and connecting with Percy in this moment. It does feel more like a conjured image from Kronos, which I think makes so much sense, because I'm sure as soon as Kronos became aware of Talia on the scene of things, he was, like, plotting and planning and being like, and now's my moment, you know?
Yeah, because he does see them as pawns, like we talked about chess in a previous episode. Like, he does see them that way, and Talia was one of the original pawns he thought, you know, he could have. Yeah. So I think pitting them against each other is actually quite important to his planning. So Talia is screaming no as the sarcophagus is engulfed in a blast of golden light, and she is also engulfed in that light. And Percy sits upright in his hammock, and Annabeth is shaking him and says, Percy, you are having a nightmare, you need to get up. And then she says, there's land, we're approaching the island of the sirens. And one thing that really hit me earlier, when you were like, they're really on the clock and they don't know what time after midnight they need to get to this island, is like, at no point does Percy just say, like, hey, we don't have time for this.
I know. At no point did he's like, hey, Annabeth,
I hear you, but we don't have time for this.
Hear you, completely understand, know that the likelihood of us coming back is small, but can we maybe put a pin in it? Because what if it's like a 6 a.m. wedding?
Right.
What if it's an 8 a.m. wedding? You know?
Right. And even if not, like, we got a deadline, and the more time we have once we get to the island to plan, the better. Yeah.
Also, like, Percy doesn't do a, like, little nautical check-in of, like, what's our current, like, positional, like, coordinates versus...
Yeah, not that we experience.
Like, yeah, not that we're aware of. He doesn't do a little, like, GPS check-in internally with himself.
Right.
To get a sense of where we are, and then maybe have Annabeth do the math to be like, okay, so how maybe far away is the island? Because I know the coordinates of that. You know? Because, like, I don't think
Percy... And how long will it take to, like, get close to and hear, but hopefully not get eaten by the sirens?
Right, and then also, like, we don't know what might lie between sirens and said island, so like maybe account for some just in case something happens, because something always.
That's why I'm saying, like, I am just shocked that there's not monster attack after monster attack from this whole section to after the sirens. Like, it just feels like there should be.
And you tell me if this feels accurate or not. The fact that neither of them are like, hey, we don't got time for that, does feel very ADHD.
Yeah, I think it does.
To not maybe have the full time awareness.
I think it feels ADHD / like I said, this is a very, like, Percy and Annabeth, like, relationship deepening and development chapter. And I dare you to say no to the person that you have a crush on when they ask you to help them with something.
To uncover their fatal flaw.
Something as meaningful and rare as that. I dare you to do that, to say no.
Yeah. And Percy does not, in fact, say no. So we kind of cut to Annabeth basically like pitching Percy on, look, I want to hear the sirens. She says that the sirens sing the truth about what you desire. They tell you things about yourself you didn't even realize. And she's just she literally is just like, how often will I get this opportunity? Like, it feels like a once in a lifetime, I think.
She says if you survive, you'll become wiser. And this goes back to the, like, Athena of it all.
Yeah, yeah. And I think Percy also, like, really understanding her as a person, I think he really gets why this feels really important to her.
Yep.
And I think this, to again, to your point of this really being a Percy and Annabeth chapter, I think we're really seeing, I think in particular, like, that trust, that respect, that, like, understanding of one another, because he's not dismissive of why she would want to do this so badly. He actually goes through a little thought process that's like, I get it for her. Like, not for me, but I get it for her.
I felt like this was huge growth in how he thinks about Annabeth, because back in The Lightning Thief, she's like, I want to be an architect, and he, like, laughs.
Right.
And now he, like, understands her desire for knowledge and architecture and all these things so much that he is willing to, you know, risk a dangerous maneuver in order for her to be able to get access to wisdom that she wants. So I think it's, like, huge growth for Percy too.
Yeah, absolutely. And so they enact the plan. Percy orders one of the ropes to wrap around Annabeth's waist, so she's tied to the foremast. And Annabeth is basically like, no matter what happens, don't untie me. I'll beg, I'll plead, I'll whatever. Like,
and this is where we have one crucial mistake that is made as Percy is tying her, which is that he does not think to take away her weapon that she currently has with her. She's like, I will do whatever I can to get out of these ropes. And he's like, okay.
Well, and Annabeth doesn't. Annabeth doesn't go, hey,
you would think Annabeth
knife.
would. Well, but okay, but the question with Annabeth is, do you think that, like, somewhere even subconsciously,
I think she kind of wants to.
You know?
Yeah. I think she kind of wants to.
Yeah, I think it's really, like, I can't imagine Annabeth truly overseeing that
in
mistake.
my brain, the whole time Percy's been asleep, Annabeth has been planning this thing out.
Totally.
She has realized there's a potential for this opportunity, and she's planned this whole thing out, and I do not believe that Annabeth, Queen of Strategy, would forget about her own dagger.
Yeah, I don't think so either. So, yeah, she's here. It's, you know, Percy's having the oversight, which happens. It happens.
Yes,
and it happens a lot with ADHD, too.
It does indeed. And so Percy is Annabeth securely tied up, he thinks. He then takes, which I was just like, two large wads of candle wax, kneads them into earplugs, like, and stuffs.
300-year-old candle wax, by the way. Yeah. We're on a ship, you know, a pirate ship that's like, they've been guinea pigs for 300 years.
Yeah. And he stuffs them into his ears, and I, just like, what's on that?
Not
and
into it.
Into your ears. No. Yeah. Ooh, I mean, like, it's dusty. You don't know what's in that candle wax, and you're sticking it into your ears. But it's smart because it's effective.
So apparently he looks silly, which is kind of funny. I love that they take a moment for Annabeth to be like, you look funny.
Like,
right.
Yeah.
And then later, when first of all, she's tied up, but later when she's, like, swimming through landmines and jagged rocks, he's not like, you look funny.
Yeah.
While he's just like, I got my earwax, I can't hear anything.
Yeah. And I really like, we get this, like, POV, I mean, we're always in Percy's POV, but, you know, a deeper POV of what that silence is like, and that it's eerie, that he can't hear anything but the rush of blood in his head. I liked that we got that. And then we get a kind of description of this island. So there's jagged rocks, and basically there's, like, this area, it seems like, surrounding the island that's incredibly dangerous and, like, full of all these, like, jagged rock hazards. The mines will, you know, see underwater, and then once you get past that, it's like like the water's like calmer
oceans.
But he realizes the moment they've kind of entered the danger zone when Annabeth goes from seeming totally normal to then straining. He can tell that she's calling his name, that she, like, her expression is that she has to get out, that it's life or death for her.
Yeah.
And it's really hard for Percy to watch her, and he's like, he kind of, this is where we take in the island, and like he sees the wreckage of old ships and flotation cushions from airplanes, and this is where we get like shots fired at top 40.
Yeah.
Because he's kind of wondering how music could cause so many lives to veer off course. And then he goes, sure, there's some top 40 songs that made me want to take a fiery nosedive, but still, what could the sirens possibly sing about? So it made me think of with the Stymphalian birds.
Totally, but here's my question then. Maybe we can ask Rick Riordan this one day. What music does Percy like? Because he doesn't like Dean Martin, okay?
Right.
He doesn't like oldies.
Yeah.
He doesn't like top 40.
He's not a pop.
He doesn't necessarily like Avril Lavigne or whatever Grover's playing.
Hilary Duff.
Sorry, Hilary Duff. He doesn't like Hilary Duff or whatever Grover's playing. So, like, what music does Percy like? Like, does Percy just not like music?
I mean, Percy always kind of gives, like, skater boy energy. Totally. So, like, I could see him vibing.
Like
maybe
Green
like
Day or something.
Yeah, maybe. You know, maybe some Green Day, maybe some Blink-182, maybe like that kind of, maybe The Cure.
I want like a sentence where Percy says what he does like musically, because all we learn is that Percy is not into music.
Yeah, he's got an antagonistic relationship
with music. Apparently, with many, many, many types of music.
Yeah, with many genres. And Percy does have a moment where he kind of gets tempted. He understands the curiosity. He can feel the sirens' voices vibrating in the timbers of the ship, which I think is really interesting. But he stays strong. At this point, Annabeth, tears are streaming down her cheeks. She's straining unbelievably hard against the ropes. Percy's kind of interpreting like what she's saying to him is like, how could you be so cruel? I thought you were my friend. Yeah. And then this is where Percy makes the mistake that every character responsible for another character makes in every freaking book, movie, and TV show.
I was just eyes off the ball, man.
Yes, you can never do that. It drives. The worst one for me is when people take a phone call and they walk away. And I'm like, you don't got to walk away. You can take the phone call staring at the person. You can stare at them. You can take a couple steps back and keep on staring at the person and take a phone call. You don't have to walk 20 feet away to take a phone call. Sorry, anyways. That's for a different TV show that I was watching. But
this feels like a fresh wound that's been reopened recently.
Yeah, it was an episode last night. Okay. I was like, what are you doing? But he finds it so hard to look at Annabeth that he tries not to look at her, and he managed to do it for about 5 minutes, which I'm just like, 5 minutes, Percy?
It's really long.
That is a really long time.
To not check on her.
And of course, when he turns around, she's gone. Because he'd forgotten to disarm her, and so, interestingly, she leaves her bronze knife. It's the ropes and the knife that she leaves, and she's just like, jumped overboard.
Which kind of makes sense in the sense that, like, the sirens probably don't want armed people showing up at their shores, so I could imagine there being a pull to like not have a weapon with you as you approach. I will say the one sentence that I just felt like was really deep that happens right before this was how do you fight a song?
Oh yes.
And I was like, I took a moment and paused, and I was like, that's not like, this book isn't necessarily asking like a deeper thing here about that per se, but I was just like, whoa. Like, it just felt like the power, like the power of music. I love that that's acknowledged here. And it also made me think of like how, you know, a lot of the time you'll see that like with dictatorships and stuff, it's like the first people that are imprisoned are like the poets and the songwriters and like the people who speak to a greater truth through the vehicle of art. And so I was just like, I don't know, it just brought so many thoughts to my head about the question, how do you fight a song?
No, absolutely. And I also think To me that was I had a similar moment. It was very profound. It was very deep, and it was also a moment where I was like, "Oh, Percy just thinks it's the song." This whole time,
Totally.
This whole time, because he's siren song, Percy's brain is going, which I would too. You know, like I would.
Yeah.
No,
you don't realize it's a whole imaginary experience projected
like,
in front of you.
It's so like much more than It's like the song is creating the magic, and then the magic is what's pulling you in. But I do kind of love that with all the shots fired, Percy's taking it music. He's just kind of like, but I guess one song will get you to jump into the ocean.
I guess so. To your peril.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so Percy, this cracked me up, tells the ship to stay like a dog.
I know, like a dog.
He'll stay, and then dives overboard.
He specifically tells the wheel to stay, not even the whole ship. He looks at the wheel and says, "Stay."
Yeah. Well, and I guess that makes sense because later on he's like, "Okay, it was staying on course, nice, slow and steady," and so we were able to rejoin. Yeah. And so Percy jumps in afterwards, and he's in really like choppy waters. Like, there are floating metal balls that he realizes that are mines. There are also like there's wreckage, and the water itself is like aggressive.
Which
and
made me think of Finding Nemo when there's the scene with the sharks that have chosen to not eat fish, and then there's like all the mines, and then
yes.
Bruce
totally
smells Dory's blood and things go awry.
And Percy kind of takes the lay of the land, is trying to find Annabeth, and kind of for better for worse, she's a really strong swimmer, so she's been making it past, but that also means that she's almost to the beach. And then Percy is able to...
Which is visually a black beach, which I think is just really cool, because there are some beaches like that in Oregon. I haven't been to one yet. I'd like to go to one, but I think just visually, when you say beach, I normally think of like yellow sand, and we've been to white sands that has like white sand from gypsum rocks, but a black beach with vultures on it and carcasses, and it just has a particular kind of feel to it here.
Yes, absolutely it does. And it's a half moon shaped bay.
Yes.
Is the other description piece.
It is.
And as the mist clears, which I think this is literal, like this is in capital M mist, this is like fog mist.
I think you're right. Yeah.
Percy actually sees the sirens, and they are described as a flock of vultures the size of people with dirty black plumage, gray talons, and wrinkled pink necks. But now imagine human heads on top of those necks, but the human heads keep changing.
That's so trippy.
Oh, yeah. So trippy. This is another thing where I'm like, how'd they do this in the show? I'm
totally. Yeah, we still need to watch it.
I'm holding off on watching because I don't want to confuse the show with the book. Yes. But I am just like, did they do this in the show? Did we see weird, trippy, like messed up vultures?
Possibly. But here's my thought, actually. I want to caveat what you said. When you said you think it's not capital M mist, I actually think it might be mist. As you were reading this, I was like, how, through what magic are they showing these changing forms? And are they showing Annabeth this whole scene? And usually when we see something that's different from reality, it's because the mist is at work.
Yes.
So then I wondered if, like, maybe it is the mist.
Yeah. No, that's a really good point, because that is what Hazel learns how to do.
To do with magic.
Is from Hecate.
Yes.
I almost said Hecate.
Aguacate.
Like aguacate. That's what Hazel learns how to do, and she is manipulating the mist in order to. But I think the difference is where not so much that I completely agree that this Percy, I think, might not realize. Like, I think there's both lowercase m mist and capital M mist happening here simultaneously.
Yeah, there could be both.
But the like alluring magic, because like I don't think, if I remember correctly, like Hazel, I don't think is necessarily making the like now come to the like
sure.
She is able to change what people see, but that added ability, which might just be like a special siren magic.
Song. That's the song part.
That's true. And how do you fight a song? That's the power
of a song. And how do you fight a song? Yeah, because what's interesting is that Percy is still seeing the faces of people that he loves,
I know.
on these vultures. Like, that magic, maybe that, like you said, some of that is the mist. But without hearing the full song, he's not getting his own scene projected.
No.
And I think what's interesting, we'll need to talk about this after we talk about what Annabeth sees. Yeah. But given the faces he's seeing, I have a theory about what Percy would have seen.
Okay, because that was my question. Okay. So yeah, so the faces that Percy's seeing are his mom, Poseidon, Grover, Tyson, and Chiron. All the people that he most wanted to see, and they're smiling reassuringly, inviting him forward. But even though the faces are changing, their mouths, which is just sounds like a horrifying nightmare. Their mouths remain greasy and caked with the remnants of old meals. So
you're welcome for that image. Hopefully you kept your wax in your ears, like I said at the beginning. Yeah. That was for this sentence.
Yeah. And so Annabeth is continuing to swim towards the beach, and Percy realizes that the sea is really his only advantage in this moment. And so he propels himself forward, is able to grab onto her ankle, and the moment that he touches her, he sees what she sees, which is crazy. Wild. Yeah. Like, that is so wild.
Like, this magic is so strong, because I think if he had been there without his wax, he would have seen what he was meant to see.
Yep.
Separate from Annabeth. But the question is, like, I always have just, like, take the logic farther questions that we can't answer. Yeah. But, so, like, if they were both there, unplugged, listening, and and seeing, and for some reason they held hands, though I don't think they would.
What happens?
Whose vision wins? Like,
what explodes?
Or do they see both at the same time? Like, what happens?
The space-time continuum collapses.
I don't think that would, like, happen because they'd be so focused on getting to their own stories that they're getting to. But it just made me curious.
It does feel a little bit like my brain is going to, like, because this feels a touch WandaVision, like, the show-esque in terms of the, like, reality and the point at the show at which, like, all the realities start to get disrupted and, like, switching. And it almost feels like maybe, like, by touching hands, I wonder if they would just, like, switch. Like, it's Percy's and it's Annabeth, and it's Percy's and it's Annabeth.
Or, like, flickers or something.
Or they'd, like, see a moment of the vultures, or because I feel like it would have to disrupt it somehow. If Percy is immediately, like, taken into Annabeth's.
Fully seeing and hearing and...
Yeah.
Or at least seeing. Maybe he's not hearing still.
Yeah.
Even through her.
So, this is what Annabeth sees. It's 3 people on a picnic blanket in Central Park. Percy recognizes Annabeth's dad, Athena, and Luke. And the whole scene is glowing in this, like, warm, buttery light. And the 3 of them are laughing and talking. And when they see Annabeth, their faces light up with delight. And Athena and Annabeth's dad are, like, holding out their hands, being like, come. And Luke is, like, grinning. And once Annabeth sits next to him, it's, like, the world where he'd never betrayed her. They were still friends. And then behind the trees of Central Park, there's a city skyline rising. And it's Manhattan, but it's not Manhattan. It had been totally rebuilt from dazzling white marble, bigger and grander than ever, with golden windows and rooftop gardens. It was better than New York. Better than Mount Olympus. And Percy immediately knows that Annabeth had designed it all, that she was the architect for a whole new world. She'd reunited her parents. She'd saved Luke. She'd done everything she'd ever wanted. And then it's interesting. He blinks really hard and his eyes open and he's back to seeing the vultures, like the sirens as they are the vultures with, like, the switching human faces. And
this goes back to Percy's dream maneuvering, where I wonder if he was more easily able to step out of the vision in part because of that Poseidon changeability that Kronos talks about, where, like, he can slip more. He's even in water right now, and so he can, like, slip in and out of visions more easily.
Yeah. No, I like that. I like that. I think that's a good explanation because, like, as we were talking, I was like, well, then why does Annabeth, like, Percy's at least seeing the faces that he's would have been seeing in this vision. So, like, how is Annabeth not pulled into him? Like, I know Percy's not hearing the song, but they're still singing Percy's song to try to get him. Totally. Like, so that magic is still being put out there. So I like the theory that the reason why Percy's able to see hers is because of his Poseidon like
and to leave it.
Yeah.
Because I think that like someone else, let's say that it's not because of that ability he can see it. Let's say anyone would see it if they touched her ankle.
Yeah.
I think there's a point, even though that vision isn't for them, where you'd have trouble leaving it. And totally. I think like part of why he's able to leave it and then help Annabeth get away is because he has that like changeability that he can move in and out of visions like that.
Yeah, yeah. I like that. And so to kind of like quickly summarize the wrap up of like how Percy gets Annabeth out of this.
Yeah.
So once he's able to grab onto her, he's like pulling her back. She's fighting this the whole time, but he's willing the currents to help them carry them out. They go under, and he realizes that Annabeth kind of stops struggling and her expression becomes confused. And this is when he's like, the sound doesn't travel well underwater. And he has a moment of like, Annabeth can't breathe, but that's a minor problem right now. Because she's like swimming towards her death. So, like,
order of priorities.
One. Yes. Yeah. And so he pulls her down. They go down 10, 20 feet, but he's cognizant that he has to be careful because he can handle more pressure underwater than she can.
Yeah.
And
just
then
good that he realizes that.
Yes. And her struggling for breath, causing bubbles to rise, makes Percy go, oh, bubbles. And he kind of like discovers new ability of being able to create an air bubble around the both of them, so only their legs are in the water. So it's a large size air bubble. It's not just their heads, it's basically like the entirety of their upper body are within this bubble, and that's what fully snaps her out of it. She gaps, she coughs, and then she just breaks down. She has a full breakdown underwater. She's sobbing. She puts her head on Percy's shoulder. He just holds her. And then she smells that fish.
I know. They're like, what?
Like, what's going on here?
What's happening?
Yep. And Percy tells him to scram, but he just kind of knows that they're going to start rumors. Underwater rumors.
Underwater rumors about the son of Poseidon.
Yeah. And some girl at the bottom of Siren Bay. Because, I feel like we had a lot of seriousness, and we got to get a little touch of humor.
A little moment. Yes.
Yeah. And Percy tells Annabeth that he's going to get them back to the ship. It's okay. Just hang on. And Annabeth, she just nods. She's, not able to really
she
say
murmurs
something
he can't hear, which made me curious. Like, I don't know what she says. I want to know what's out there.
Yeah, I know. And so he gets them to the ship, which has been staying like very slowly and steadily on course going away from the island. When Percy kind of judges that he thinks they've moved safely outside of the earshot of the sirens, they resurface. He gets a rope ladder. They climb back on board. He keeps his earplugs in just to be safe, and he keeps them in until they have sailed completely, like where the island is completely out of sight.
Yeah. Which I think is smart.
Yes.
Because there's a world where, like, Annabeth is still moved by the sirens in such a way that it, like, tricks Percy that they're safe or whatever.
Yes. Yep, absolutely. And she looks up, dazed and sad, mouths safe, and that's when he takes out the earplugs. And there's no singing or anything. This is where we get a time check of the afternoon. Yeah. So we are in the afternoon.
Hoping the wedding has not happened yet, because it's today.
Yep. And everything is quiet. And then this is when they kind of like recap and discuss what happened. Do you want to recap their conversation and then talk about this as a whole, or dive into the thoughts and questions we had about the sirens before we move on to their like debrief of the events?
I think let's talk a little bit about the sirens first, because then we're going to go into fatal flaws, which I think is a different conversation.
Yeah.
So I think that a couple things here that I wanted to mention. One is that I think it's really sweet that we had our first underwater bubble, because that will become like their signature relationship thing. Mm-hmm. And that here it's like an invention of necessity, but also that like it's a moment of tenderness, like Annabeth is sobbing, and then like it creates space and like peace for that to be able to happen. So it's just a really, really beautiful moment of their relationship. Like we said, this kind of is like a Annabeth Percy relationship chapter, and I think that's like
Absolutely.
The sort of climax of that is Annabeth breaking down, because also Annabeth doesn't break down that often, and Annabeth doesn't like cry on people's shoulders and ask for help very often. So like this is a very important moment. My question, I have a bunch of questions, but my question about the text is, so this says Luke is gesturing for Annabeth to sit next to him as if he were still her friend.
Yeah.
My question is that Percy's read because he doesn't want to read anything else? Because I think it is quite meaningful that it's just her parents and Luke, that Luke is there. And I think in this version of the world, like, Annabeth would want to be with Luke. Like, she has a crush on Luke. Do you think that he's there in this version as, like, more of a romantic figure?
I think so, because I think at this point in her journey, like where we find Annabeth now, I think she still has enough of a romantic crush on Luke. Like she hasn't,
I think so too.
That I think her ideal world in this moment is not Luke platonically, but Luke romantically.
Yeah, I think so too. Like, it's not that she doesn't already have some feelings starting for Percy, because people can have feelings for more than one person at a time, too.
Yeah, yeah.
But I think that she's had this crush for such a long time with Luke that, like, it's deep. Like, Percy's not on that beach. Like, I think it's important.
Annabeth is not on Percy's beach.
No.
Neither of them are in each other's siren song world. Very true which fact. I think is fascinating, that especially really because Percy is going to take it kind of personally that he wasn't on Annabeth's beach. And I'm like, my guy, she wasn't on yours either.
Right. Like, Chiron made the cut, but not Annabeth. Yeah.
Like,
okay,
Grover,
well, that was
Chiron,
my question.
Like, your beach wasn't just mom and dad, you know,
no.
and who you've got a crush on. Your beach was everyone but Annabeth.
Yeah, basically. And they were swapping out pretty quick. Yeah. There's a lot of different people. She could have made the cut. Yeah. Do you have thoughts on what Percy would have seen?
I don't know. I have always wondered this, and part of me wonders if he just sees like everyone together and happy in like a nice place, like not even super fancy place, just like him, like because he does say to Annabeth that he understands, like he, you know, desired his mom and dad like to be together, but it also feels like, I don't know, and maybe it's because we meet Mr. Blowfish so soon and he becomes such a big part that like I've always been torn on like, does he see Sally and Poseidon together really, or is it like just that like everyone's able to be together and hang out and it's just one big happy family and not necessarily Sally and Poseidon, or maybe it is. I don't know. What?
Yeah, because I feel like Annabeth's vision is very relationship focused, but what she learns for her fatal flaw that we're going to talk about has more to do with hubris. Yeah. So maybe what we should do is talk a little bit about that next piece, and then we can talk about, because I think it has to involve, or at least it makes sense to me that it would involve Percy discovering his fatal flaw, potentially, too.
Which would make sense. The featuring of Grover, Tyson, and Chiron, all people who currently need saving to some degree or another. Like, and the whole, you know, he has to save everybody. He can't leave a friend behind. Like, it does also make sense in that.
Yes, I think it really does. Yeah, I think it really does. So to set that up, we have a discussion between Annabeth and Percy about like what happened after we've been through these bubbles. So Percy's trying to figure out if he wants to tell her that he saw what she was seeing, which I understand, like that feeling very delicate, like,
oh, totally.
Do I admit to this? But I think he chooses wisely, and he decides to tell her that he did see the vision that the sirens had shown to Annabeth, and that he also saw the way that she rebuilt Manhattan.
Yeah.
And that Luke was there and her parents. Mm-hmm. And it makes her blush. And Percy remembers Luke telling Annabeth on the Princess Andromeda about restarting and rebuilding the world from scratch, and realizes that that got to her.
Yeah.
And she says that she was shown by the sirens her fatal flaw, which is hubris. And Percy has a moment thinking that she's talking about hummus because it's Percy.
Because it's Percy.
And of course, Percy's thoughts on hummus doesn't like it.
Music
doesn't like it. Hummus doesn't like it.
What's up with that?
Got a big long list of doesn't like. Yeah. Percy doesn't like a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Coke likes it.
Mm-hmm.
So she explains that hubris means deadly pride. So that's Annabeth's definition of hubris.
Yeah.
A lot of the time, like, I hear it described as thinking you can do even better than the gods, which is
what she says.
Which is what she then describes it as. And then she says that, like, she does think that, well, the world feels messed up, and what if you could do it better? And Percy over here is like, cannot relate, do not relate, what are you talking about?
Well, and I just think it's so fascinating for Annabeth as a character who has such a fundamental, like, institutional belief in the gods, for her to have this, like, also internal hubris of, but I kind of think I could do it better, like, than they could. And I just think that's a fascinating, like, internal tension for her to have, because she believes in the gods and the system so strongly, but she also has this hubris that she thinks she could do better than they could.
I think that it makes sense in the way that, like, she likes what they've done and she sees room for improvement versus fundamentally disagreeing with what they've done. And because her Manhattan still looks like Manhattan.
Right.
I think someone who, like, wasn't bought into the system and maybe still had hubris would have a very different view of what the world should become. Yeah, it doesn't seem like she changed it that much. It seems like she made it prettier. Like, maybe also in that world, like she's saying here, there's no homelessness and there's, there's like everyone has food and shelter and who knows what else, right? Like, their needs are met in these marble, buildings decorated with gold. But I do think that she's not fundamentally changing the structure of what is. She's just making it better. So I think that's why, like, it is a tension, but it also is kind of something that makes sense to me.
Yeah, I get that. As
being able to coexist. So what's funny is the only thing that she's saying, what if we could do it again from scratch? No war, nobody homeless. And then she says, no more summer reading homework. And Percy's finally like, I'm listening.
We gotta have some jokes.
Y'all. It's been an intense ride.
We gotta have some bits.
We do. And so then Annabeth makes the claim that the West represents a lot of the best things mankind ever did, that's why the fire is still burning and Olympus is still around. But then sometimes you see bad stuff and you want to tear it all down. And I think here, like, both of us probably had a little bit of a reaction. Like, the West has done a lot of really bad things. Like,
I wrote, does it really represent?
Yeah. Like, I think we've talked before about sitting in the both and of the world, but I think we could, and people have, at length explored the ways in which the West represents a lot of really terrible things and a lot of destruction. And really the question is, like, best things for whom? Like, if you are a person who holds a lot of privilege, then yeah, sure, like, maybe it has done good things for you. If you're a person who hasn't, depending on where you live and how you live, you're not gonna agree with what Annabeth is saying here. So
no,
I think it's more complex.
And I think it really speaks to the point that you were making earlier about, like, Annabeth buys into it so much and she's just like, but I could just improve upon what's been.
Yeah.
Like, the fact that her vision of perfection is, one, like, centered around New York City, right? And she's just seeing that. And two, about basically, like, the West even more everywhere.
Right.
And it's like, there's no acknowledgement of, like, well, but the West is currently sitting on a country full of stolen land. And so your perfect ideal scenario is like, you know, probably contains a lot of complete, utter, further 100% colonization complete, you know, like, and so, yeah, I think that question of like, for whom?
Yes.
For whom is this
also, there's
the
a very
ideal?
big assumption here, which is that the fire is still burning because the West represents a lot of the best things mankind ever did. And I think it's like, is that why? Or is it because of, like, power? Like, is it because of who is in power, who wields power, who is allowed to wield power? Like, there's even who is allowed to have which kinds of weapons in the world is entirely dictated by the West. Who is allowed to have access to resources, or who is pillaged for resources. Like, it has always been an imbalance of power that has guided where this, like, fire burns. So I think
also
it's missing an entire analysis within this, like, assumption here.
And even just taking in, like, the Greek pantheon itself, like, the flame of the West is killing Pan and will successfully kill Pan. So it's like, even from your own, like, pantheon of Greek mythology, it's actually not even the best for everything, you know, every deity, every being.
Honestly,
in that pantheon.
Pan's death should affect everyone in this series way more than it does.
It really should.
It really should. It should be a much bigger wake-up call than it is. Like, Heroes of Olympus should have been, like, the heroes go around the world cleaning up the ocean and the...
Yeah, it's really just Grover. Like,
yeah, it's just
really
Grover.
Just Grover.
And everyone else is like, yeah, Grover, we support you. Right. Go do you. We're gonna be over here.
Oh, yeah, justice for Pan.
Yeah. Justice for Pan. And yeah, it really, so we'll get there, but it really should sit with them more than it does. But what I think is really interesting here, because I can say that I am a person who has been, like, who has held a sense of hubris in my life. Like, I don't know if that's my biggest, most fatal flaw. I need to think about that more. But it certainly is a flaw that I have experienced. So I think it's interesting when Annabeth is like, don't you feel that way ever? Like, you could do a better job if you ran the world. It works really, like, it's very true for Percy to be like, no, me running the world would be kind of a nightmare. Like, like, he's just like, no, don't give me that.
Me in
like,
charge of anything.
In no situation do I want to make decisions about other people's lives unless we're in battle. So then she says, then you're lucky hubris isn't your fatal flaw. He asks what is, and Annabeth explains every hero has it. She doesn't know what his is, but if you don't find it and learn to control it, then, well, they don't call it fatal for nothing. So this is a really important kind of inserting of a question in Percy's mind for him to explore throughout the rest of the books is, what is my fatal flaw?
Yeah.
And he also ruminates on the rest of the vision that Annabeth saw and the other things that she's not talking about, like getting her parents back together, saving Luke. And like you said, he acknowledges that he has thought about his parents getting back together. And he feels then like he has this moment of remembering his mom and the little apartment and the blue waffles. And he just like, it feels really far away, which makes sense. Like, we're in the Sea of Monsters. It is really far away. And he asks if it was worth it and if Annabeth feels wiser, which was my question going into it. And she says she's not sure. And I think that the vision wasn't just this clear cut, like, here's your wisdom. It brought up, it stirred up a lot of emotions, because when you see what your heart's deepest desire is, it's like a mirror reflecting back, and then when you experience the world isn't aligned with that vision, and your heart might not be fully aligned with that vision, like when they're talking about remaking the world, Annabeth isn't 100% wanting to do that if it means taking down the system of the gods. So it's complex. And then she just basically reaffirms that they need to save the camp and stop Luke. And then Percy realizes that if even Annabeth is tempted by this, that many other half-bloods could be tempted by Luke's vision of the world, and she's right. Yeah. And then he thinks a little bit about Talia and the sarcophagus, though he's not saying this is Talia yet.
No, like, he's just like, she looks vaguely familiar, yes. But I can't place.
So we should clarify. Like, yeah, Percy doesn't realize that that's Talia. No. And he feels like he's missing something, and that there's something terrible Kronos is planning, and that what's under the coffin lid is a big part of that. And then they arrive at the saddle-shaped island with the forested hills and white beaches and green meadows, and they are at 30 degrees, 31 minutes north, 75 degrees, 12 minutes west. They had reached the home of the Cyclops, hopefully in time to stop a wedding. I object.
An evening wedding.
Hopefully
an 6 p.m. wedding.
Yeah. We're aiming for like sunset, golden hour wedding.
Yeah.
So I think that Percy would see all of those people that he sees the faces, like all these people who are close to him. And I think that they would be safe. I imagine, though, that like someone like Poseidon or gods would be like proud of him. Like that he would also get some, like I imagine Poseidon being warm and proud of him for saving everyone.
I just had a theory for where they're at. I think maybe they're at Montauk together.
I think everyone's they could be at Montauk. That's a thought.
Potentially. Like, because I was just kind of like, his dream, his ideal of everyone's together. I was like, I could totally see it being like a cutie, nice little New York City apartment. But I could also totally see it as like everyone's safe and happy together at Montauk. Like,
I could
him
see
and his
Montauk.
mom's favorite place.
I could see Camp Half-Blood too.
Totally.
Like, I think
yep.
But then I don't know if his mom can be there. So maybe it does make sense to be Montauk. In some way, shape, or form, there has to be this. I think that it needs to be clear that he has been the one to save all of them. And that's where I don't know how to fit, like, how that exactly, like, in Annabeth's vision, it's clear that she has rebuilt New York.
Right.
So I think something like Poseidon's Pride would maybe say that.
Yeah. But even Tyson just literally physically being there, because right now Percy thinks he's dead.
Tyson being there.
And Grover being there, because right now Grover's in imminent danger. Chiron's who knows where. Like, for the three of them, I think their literal presence is like, I did it. We did it, Joe.
Totally. So yeah, I'm curious what else would be in that vision that would like give you the feeling that he has been the one to save them. You know, but that's kind of what I imagine. Okay, so my question is, would you listen to the sirens?
Yeah.
And not just because there's 300-year-old wax you don't want to stick in your ears. Imagine you have modern, clean, FDA-approved wax that you could stick in your ears. Would you listen to the sirens?
My OCD issues aside, I have wax that's... I have some sort of ear plug situation that my brain is okay with. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's tough because, like, I think I feel of two minds. Like, I think I would be most curious about the image. Like, I think I would be most curious about that. But I think it's one of those things where, like, I believe for myself that, well, actually, I don't know. I was about to say I believe that image has changed over time, but now actually I don't know.
Yeah.
Like,
does that affect you wanting to see it or not?
Yeah, well, because I was going to say that I think the ability for it to change makes me feel more like, let me go on my own journey of self-discovery, you know, and kind of find this out for myself. But gotcha. I think I would be really curious to be like, sirens, like, what do you have to show me? You know, like, so I think I'd be curious. So yeah, maybe I would, just out of that, like, what do you got for me? You know,
yeah, totally.
Like, what do you see in me? You know, I think I have some ideas about what I think I'd see.
Right.
But yeah, Yeah, I'd be curious. What about you? Would you listen?
I don't think I was 100% sure until we started talking, but now that we've discussed the whole chapter in depth, I think this will work out. I can be the one to tie you up on the ship and have the earwax in, I think. Yeah. Though I will make sure to disarm you first. Because what's really coming to mind for me is that what the siren showed Annabeth was not real.
Totally, yeah.
And I also have a really strong sort of autonomous, self-determined streak to me. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. But I think ultimately I'm like, I don't want to see like a false image of something, like something that's not true.
This is reminding me of your hatred of magicians.
Yeah, a little bit. It kind of goes in there. For those of you who don't know on the pod. Not like fantasy magicians, like real life magicians that are just lying to all of us. And we all just agree to have them lie to us. It's really a strange thing that we do. But anyway, that's a separate tangent.
That's just honest take.
I know. This is okay. No, it's me and one of my friends too.
Yes.
Had the exact same answer without being prompted by me.
I know, I was there.
Yeah, that's how you know you have a best friend. Anyway, I think that for me, it's like, it's not that I don't want to self-reflect or know what
I
never want to see myself
I want to stay
in a mirror.
The same and never change.
No, like I actually, I welcome change in many ways. I think that like I want to know what my flaws are and all these things, but I think that I want to encounter them more organically, and I don't necessarily want to like see a thing that like what my mind thinks could be or what would be most appealing to me, but that like isn't actually a true thing, so
sure. I think I would want to, as you were talking, I was
like a different way of thinking about it, I think.
Oh no, absolutely.
Yeah.
I was realizing that my reason for seeing it is not actually the like demigod to discover my fatal flaw, but more for like, I want to see what that image is so I know what to bring into therapy. Because I'm like 99% sure what the image is like. Yeah. And so we got to bring that into therapy. And there's maybe some parts work that we got to do. And there's
there you go.
Grieving and healing, like there's...
you walk into your therapist's office and you're like, so funny story. Over the weekend, I went into the Sea of Monsters. Mm-hmm. I went by the Siren Island. My sister tied me up to a ship. Yeah. I saw this crazy stuff. And now I know what we're going to work on for the next 6 to 8 weeks in session. Mm-hmm. Let's begin.
Let's dive in.
And your therapist is like, what?
No, but because I think like, because I think like, and I don't know if you feel like you maybe have a sense of what, if you did listen and see, if you feel like you have a sense of maybe what you'd get shown, but taking kind of like some inspiration from like what we kind of get a sense of like what they show Annabeth, I think I probably kind of know what I'd see, and I think it's like the forever thing that I'm kind of having to process and therapy and let go of and like and be okay with. And so I think like, but I think I'm curious because I'm like, but what if they show me something different? What if I think I know and then it's something totally different? Because that'd be fun. Surprise.
And probably still processable in therapy, which is also part of why, back to the beginning of all of this, we need therapists at Camp Half-Blood, because what you ideally want is a therapist who doesn't blink twice when you walk in and say, so I went to the Sea of Monsters and I went to the Siren Island.
Exactly.
And I saw a vision. Like, that they're like, great, let's discuss. And not like, back up 10 spaces and tell me say what now.
Right. Or, like maybe like an EMDR trained therapist who could have done some really good work with Annabeth, like around that particular experience with the Cyclops and, Yeah,
we'd like to see it. Well, other than that, everybody in the comments tell us if you would listen or not to the sirens. I want to know. How many of us would listen, how many would not listen. Any other final thoughts on the chapter?
I was just really reflecting on like the framing of, because Annabeth says you see your fatal flaw. It's your heart's desire, but it's also your fatal flaw. Yeah. And like how emotionally difficult it would be to be shown your heart's desire and know that the truth of that is something quote unquote like bad or wrong or to change about yourself, like is your fatal flaw. I feel like that is such an emotionally challenging thing to like take in and process because of this fatal flaw framing, you know, like it's, I think that, right, because she sees this like ideal image and is able to very quickly, you know, props to Annabeth, like extrapolate from that. Right. It's hubris, right? The sirens weren't singing, it's hubris, it's hubris.
Right. As like, far as we know, no.
You know, did a little like tap
They
number.
were just like, come like, hither. Yeah.
But just that, like, that's really hard. Yeah. You know, I think like to be like, dang, what my heart wants at its core is flawed fatally.
Yeah, that's really rough. It's also like a question is necessarily for demigods, do the sirens show you your fatal flaw? Like maybe what you most want isn't related to your fatal flaw for all people. Like that's a question that comes up as you say that. I don't know the answer to that question, but I'm curious about it. Yeah. But yes, I agree. I think that's part of why that like sob release moment for her is so important with Percy, to like come back to someone who is currently like a safe person that she can, you know, hold her through this, so that like literally and emotionally, because there's a positive to him not having been in her vision and being outside of that and being a real person in front of her right now who is dependable. And I think like this is actually like a moment in a way then that she integrates and takes with her into the future of like, who is someone that I should be trusting and counting on, like not just in an abstract I wish this were possible way, but in a real tangible right in front of me best friend kind of way. And I just think that it cannot be overstated the importance of this chapter for their relationship. And ultimately I think it's good that Annabeth asks, even though they could have maybe thought about the timing of it all. It's good that she asks to hear it, because I think it does. She learns her fatal flaw, Percy learns about fatal flaws, and I think it really deepens their relationship in a meaningful way that is so important moving forward.
Absolutely. Well, and as you were talking, I was just thinking about how like to the points that you're making about it showing you this non-real thing and them both not being in each other's, like I think really emphasizes that they have a very grounded real relationship. Totally. That exists truly in reality, and what they are creating is real, you know?
Oh, that's like, cute. It's like they didn't need to change anything about each other because they're already where they need to be. That's adorable. Like a Hallmark card or something.
You know, and I think the reason why they're not there is because both like 13 and they're like,
and they're still new to each other. But I like that idea. Yeah.
But just, I think especially because this chapter is so, it is just full of such grounded, real, vulnerable, honest moments. Like from like Annabeth is doing a lot of the like verbally emotional, vulnerable things, like in that she's sharing the most of herself. But Percy is also like that wording always really got to me, where he was saying like he felt like he trespassed. He felt like a trespasser by having seen, but he like knows that he owes it to her to be like, hey, I saw this thing. Like I saw what you saw. I owe it to you to tell you that. And so I think like, this chapter really like grounds them, I think, with one another in a new, deeper, their relationship is taken to another level, like, kind of way.
And that's good, because we are reaching the climax of our story and we need them to be a strong team together. Yes. So we will see what happens on the island we have been waiting to come in real and not dream form next time, when we read Sea of Monsters chapter 14. We meet the Sheep of Doom. Bye.
Bye.